Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. K-Man Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The K-Man Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today is Friday, the 28th day of February 2020. I hope and I trust that everyone had a restful, enjoyable evening. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, again, we urge you to be extremely cautious. If you're a pedestrian, if you're a cyclist operating any type of motorized vehicle on the roads of the Cayman Islands, please ensure that you observe the rules of the road. And always remember that the life you save may be your own. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles, as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. During those periods, our phone lines are always open, and there is always someone there waiting to take your calls. This morning, it is the voice of Silver Fox, Mr. Paul Akai. You can call us on a toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. Of course, if you don't like to talk on the telephone, then email us at For the Record, one word, For the Record at candw.ky. WhatsApp us on 925-3261, where you can send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. Now, this morning, Friday, normally it is the slot that has been reserved for the official opposition in our legislative assembly, and I want to first of all say that they have kindly ceded their slot this morning, their time on For the Record, to allow the government and minister who has responsibility for health, environment, culture, and housing to be in the studio along with his support staff to talk about a very, very important subject. And while there are other issues that are facing the Cayman Islands from a political perspective, this one has to do with our health and well-being. And again, I want to extend our gratitude to the leader of the opposition and his team for ceding this time to the government to be able to discuss this very important issue. And of course, the most recent news in relation to the coronavirus outbreak, I see where on BBC, the World Health Organization has indicated the outbreak is getting bigger. And before I introduce my guest, I would like to give you a summary of some of the things that the World Health Organization has pointed out. They have pointed out that the virus could reach most, if not all, countries at some point in time. They also point out that European and Asian markets plummeted after the loss in the U.S. on Thursday. The first case reported in sub-Saharan Africa in Lagos, Nigeria. 3 more infections confirmed in the UK, taking the total there to 19. 9 guests have left a hotel in Tenerife in a lockdown. New Zealand, Belarus, the Netherlands, and Lithuania confirmed their first cases as well, and China confirms another 327 cases, the lowest daily increase for a month, and 44 deaths, mainly in Hubei. So those are some updates, some statistics, and I'm sure that the guests that we have in the studio are much more capable of detailing, giving you more details than I have read out there in relation to the coronavirus, and of course as it relates to the Cayman Islands as well. So without any further ado, it is my pleasure to welcome in the studio this morning the Honorable Minister for Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing, Honorable Dwayne Seymour. Good morning, Minister. Welcome back to For the Record.
Thank you for having us. Thank Radio Cayman for allowing us to come on so quickly. I want to thank your regular guests for allowing us the space to discuss this important matter. Good morning to the residents in the Cayman Islands.
Okay, we also have in the studio, and I should say no stranger to For the Record now as well, Dr. John Lee, who's the Chief Medical Officer, and he works within the Ministry.
Good morning, Mr. Connor.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Connor. Good morning to the listeners.
Okay. Also with us, we have the Acting Chief Officer in the Ministry, Miss Nelly Pucci. Miss Pucci, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, sir. Good morning to your listeners.
And Dr. Samuel Williams, the Medical Officer for Health in the Cayman Islands. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thanks for having us here.
Okay, and Minister, I'm going to throw the mic straight over to you.
Well, thank you, OC, and we're here today because we thought it was important. The Ministry and the Public Health Department, we're working to protect Caymanians and residents from the coronavirus, and we are here to advise residents, with travel plans to any other country with significant transmissions. You should avoid them. Not only necessarily mainland China, but any other countries that have been affected by this. As always, our first priority is to keep Caymanians and residents safe and mitigate any public health threats expeditiously. The virus is not yet in the Caribbean. It's not yet in the Cayman Islands. And if we can do our best, as we always do, to try to minimize, it's inevitable that it will at some point come to every point throughout the world. But if we can do our best to advise the public of what to do to mitigate this disease, I think that the time is now when we don't have one single case. So we're here today to advise the public on discuss what is coronavirus. How is it spread? How is it coronavirus diagnosed? How do you reduce the risk? And what do you do if you have coronavirus? We have been meeting over the last couple of months, I'd say, or for the last month, with stakeholders, border control, which is very important, airlines, asking questions, handing out pamphlets, immigration, etc., to ensure that we give as much information as possible to persons who feel symptoms, that we treat them right away and try to quarantine them, if that's even in their own homes, as quick as possible, so that the spread of this disease doesn't take over our country.
Okay, Dr. Lee?
Yes, maybe some statistics for the listeners, some up-to-date statistics. The number of new countries since even yesterday that have got coronavirus has increased by a further 8 to 54. And clearly that number seems to be climbing by the hour or by the minute, whereas before it was fairly low. So certainly the disease is spreading rapidly around the world. It's very likely that this is because that it seems that it's able to be transmitted when people don't have any symptoms.
Yes.
And it's also possible that some people who have the disease never have symptoms. They have a very mild thing that you may have had a scratchy throat for a little bit and then they recover fully. And that's likely. That's probably how it's traveling without us being able to spot it, which brings, unfortunately, it brings the value of screening down because people can not have it and not know it. So that's a big issue for us. So the thing that we need to do, all of us need to do all of the time, is to try and prevent infection from entering the body, because you don't know whether somebody may have it or not. The most important thing for this particular virus appears to be distance. So if you can keep a minimum of 3 foot, if not 6 foot, away from somebody, then you're really reducing the risk that you might get from that person from catching the disease. We've already previously said that you need to be careful of people who've got a respiratory disease. Wash your hands, keep your hands clean. If you're going to sneeze into your elbow. I know some people can see us on YouTube. Or into a paper tissue and throw it away. We've got a new slogan that's coming out, which is catch it, bin it, kill it, which means catch it in a tissue, bin the tissue, and that's the way to kill the virus. But please keep your distance from people. Consider how you greet people. I mean, clearly not in your own household, because your own household that's your household. But if you're greeting people in the community, try not think of how you're greeting people. If you don't need to shake their hands, then keep that 3 foot distance minimum. Give them a lovely smile and a lovely wave, and that's all I'm advising you should do for the minute. This is going to take a while to play out, Mr. Connor. We all have to be patient with our approach to it, and just do our best to stop the spread.
Okay, Dr. Williams, for the benefit of our listening and viewing audience, can you explain again for us what is coronavirus?
Thanks, Mr. Connor. Coronavirus is a family of viruses. Actually, they have been around for many years, actually, and they are a common cause of respiratory diseases. Actually, the coronavirus family are responsible for the outbreak in the past of SARS and also the MERS in China, the SARS and MERS in the South area. So this is a new strain of the coronavirus called COVID-19, and actually the difference between this strain and the previous strain of coronavirus, that this strain is definitely more aggressive than the previous, in the sense that it can spread more easily from person to person, and most of it had to do, as Dr. Lee just mentioned, with the fact that a lot of patients without symptoms can actually pass the disease from person to person. So in that sense, as you noticed, the number is been spreading daily. The number of countries affected is increasing daily, even though it seems to be a decrease in the number of new cases in China, but around the world, the numbers are definitely increasing. And although we don't have any case in the Caribbean as yet, and definitely no case here in the Cayman Island, we are anticipating that eventually we will get cases in the region. The virus is called zoonotic disease. It's usually transmitted from animal to humans, but of course human-to-human transmission is possible and is happening right now, and that's why the virus is spreading so quickly. It's a new virus. It mutated from the regular coronavirus, and that's why at this stage we don't have any vaccine for the virus as yet, even though some countries are working on it, and we should have something coming on within the next few months. And also there is no specific treatment to kill this virus.
Okay. Now, Minister, you spoke earlier about your collaboration with the various stakeholders in the Cayman Islands, and we saw recently where one cruise ship was not allowed to enter the Cayman Islands. We also saw it, the same cruise ship actually, being refused entry into Jamaica, eventually accepted in Cozumel. We're going to take a commercial break, but when we return, we want to talk about the measures that the government of the Cayman Islands, the measures that are being taken to address this issue, and looking down the road, since we know that it is spreading rapidly, and eventually we expect that it'll be in the Caribbean, quite possibly in the Cayman Islands, whether or not we now have to take more aggressive steps in terms of either prevention or if it does happen, isolation or whatever. So we're going to take a short commercial break. When we return, we will continue with this very important topic that relates and affects all of us here in the Cayman Islands. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the historical vignette series, The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
The Bay Islands of the northern shores of Honduras, including Utila, Rotan, and Guanaja or Panaca, along with the islets of Elaine, Barbarat, and Marat, saw a rather rapid and dramatic settlement of Caymanians following emancipation in the Cayman Islands. By 1844, so many Caymanians were arriving that disagreements were constant. Only 5 years prior, in 1839, a contingent of convicts and soldiers representing Honduran interests were sent to Port Royal Rotan to establish Honduran sovereignty over the migrant Caymanians. The action was met with a swift response by Superintendent Colonel Alexander MacDonald from Belize, who sailed on the HMS Rover to Rotan. After sending the convicts and soldiers back, he hoisted the Union Jack after removing the flag of the Central American Federation. Tensions appeared to also arise between the settlers themselves, and around 1850, a public surveyor had to be appointed to measure off land for the newly arrived stakeholders.
Information from this historical vignette was sourced from Founded Upon the Seas, A History of the Cayman Islands and Their People by Michael Creighton and the New History Committee.
I remember playing at 7 Mile Beach as a boy, eating mango by the sea, learning how to snorkel. My mother, she worked so hard to provide for our family so that we could have those moments. Seeing her age has been tough. That strong, capable woman, now in need of daily support, it's my time to be strong for her.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of the careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
2020 means perfect vision, and if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR.
Hold up.
Just two of the many hybrid models that Vamped is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from Vamped can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 CO2 emissions and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vamped Motors and we will see you through. Come to Vamped, home of the hybrid, located on Walkers Road.
The next presentation of CI Retro Talk Today comes your way on Friday, February the 28th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman, when we bring you the second in the 3-program series on the path to the Cayman Islands' first constitution in 1959, Cayman Islands politics and governance. This program will focus on the origins and development of political parties in the Cayman Islands and is being brought to you by Parsons Air Conditioning, Refrigeration and Appliances in West Bay. Parsons is presently having a big value blowout sale on refrigerants. You can get a 25-pound cylinder of 410A or 417A refrigerant for $80. The R134A 12-ounce can is going for $8. Call Parsons Air Conditioning and Refrigeration at 949-3945 for all of your air conditioning, refrigeration, and appliance needs. That's CI Retro Talk Today on February the 28th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman. Be listening.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're discussing the coronavirus outbreak. We're discussing measures that are being taken in the Cayman Islands in this regard. We're also seeking the comments from our listening and viewing audience in relation to this, any questions that you may have. This conversation is taking place with the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, Minister with Constitutional Responsibility for Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing. Also in the studio with us is Dr. John Lee, who's the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Samuel Williams, the Medical Officer for Health, and Acting Chief Officer in the Ministry of Health, Ms. Nelly Pucci. We have a caller, so we're going to go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Orrett Connor.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Okay, and good morning to your guest, and special good morning to Minister Seymour.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, it's not if that thing's going to come, Cayman. It's when. And that 300 acres that government has up in East End, I think you all should go ahead and build a hospital that can hold at least 700 patients, that we're able to quarantine people and stopping this virus from spreading, and stop focusing on this cruise ship port, because that is going to be a major part of the problem, bringing that disease here to this island. And it's just a matter of time before those cruise ships start going into bankruptcy because of not having the passengers on those ships the way that they need to in order to continue financially. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Any comments?
I guess I don't know the piece of land, but I think what we were suggesting is at the comfort of your own home. Persons being quarantined at the comfort of your own home.
Okay. And in the event that we do have travelers, persons who may come here as tourists and they're detected to have the virus, in terms of quarantine, what would be done in those instances?
Well, I think it's good to clarify that actually we have been monitoring travelers to the Cayman Island that coming from an area that are being affected. And we have actually monitored and put patients in isolation, not because of symptoms, but because of where they're coming from.
Yes.
And we have been following them daily by the Public Health Department with visits to the house and call. And so the approach will be the same when the numbers increase. Definitely, if the patient has symptoms, it's all dependent on how severe the symptoms are. If the symptoms are severe enough that the patient need to be admitted at the hospital, the HSA is ready. And also, we are in communication with the others 2 hospitals on island to make sure that we have enough people of services to provide for these people that need. There's a lot of countries now, it's a serious country that we are following that have local transmission now, and we are advising to some of these countries for the people to the Cayman Island to avoid non-essential travel to some of these countries. And can mention just a few like France, Germany, Hong Kong, Iran, Italy, South Korea, Japan, Singapore, Taiwan, Thailand, Vietnam. So there are some countries that we are in constant communication with Custom and Border Control, so they are aware of this. Of course, if somebody's returning from mainland China, where the outbreak started, and where there's a bigger outbreak, the approach will be different, and there are regulations that they are about to come out that will set direction on how we deal with this patient. For residents returning to the Cayman Island, definitely we want them to be quarantined at home in the comfort of their own house, and we definitely will follow up with them.
Okay, we have 2 more callers. We're going to try to accommodate both calls before we go to the 8 o'clock news, so we're going to ask you to please be as brief as possible. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello?
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, OC. Good morning to the minister and all the guests.
Good morning, sir.
Good
morning.
Good morning.
Couple of questions and comments. The previous caller had said that it's not if it's when, and I agree with him, because that seems to be the state now, that this thing is spreading and it will go eventually all over.
Yes.
Secondly, they're talking about the quarantine, and that's what I was going to ask a question. Where would they quarantine? And I heard that they're talking about quarantining at home. My question is, if somebody has signs or symptoms and you quarantine them at home, wouldn't that bring other people in the house into contact with it too, and thereby increase the amount of people affected or potentially to be infected? Secondly, if it gets to the point, like the doctor said, you get more serious cases, are the hospitals able or do they have enough capacity to put one area, to have a quarantine area of isolation? Because, like I said, once people have signs, that means it can be spread. So therefore, anybody coming in contact with them. So we want to reduce contact with other people as much as possible. How would hospitals be able to handle that? Secondly, we understand, from seeing on the news overseas, right now in America, there's a shortage of stuff like masks and other, what you call that now, stuff that help you to protect yourself, protection gear. What are we doing about that? Is there any steps here to make sure that we have enough protection? Protection gear, masks, whatever, the coveralls, that would be necessary if we were to have an outbreak.
Okay.
And I'll just, like I said, listen for the answers, because I am one that seriously thinks that it's not if, but when.
Thank you very much, caller. That answer may come after the 8 o'clock news. We're going to try to squeeze in the other caller very quickly before the 8 o'clock news. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Rambo.
Hey, morning, Rambo. How are you?
Yeah, be faster. The last caller, right? You said the resident about the U.S. They're frantic with the lack of surgical masks. For China, they manufacture them, right? And obviously, they surgical masks for the normal surgery procedures, and to counteract from spreading the coronavirus, right? So obviously, that's a crucial point. And Ms. O.C., as a guest know, obviously, right, the host, the coronavirus, right, passes the carrier, right? It's spreading up sort of rapidly, right? Globally, within a minute, right? And the isolation procedure now, I hope at first they say it was 14 days, 24 days, I hope it'll be longer, right? Whether if it at a public dwelling or a private dwelling, right? So whenever they desolate the public, everybody careful. And for like I say, my tuition, right? Was also I told you in the governor Monday, my tuition, hazmat suit, need to be arranged and utilized in certain areas. Yeah. Precaution, preliminary caution.
Okay.
Have a good day, sir.
Thank you very much, Rambo, for that as well. Folks, don't change that dial. This conversation will continue after the 8 o'clock news. Very important. We're discussing the coronavirus outbreak and what the Cayman Islands authorities are doing to mitigate the situation here in the Cayman Islands. So please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news, and we will continue to take your calls as well.
Radio Cayman Time Check is brought to you by our friends at Foster's.
I've been trying to eat less meat this year, and I have to say, it's easier than I thought.
Really? Which restaurants have you been going to?
Foster's.
The supermarket?
Yeah, their Bay Market Cafe has tons of plant-based options. Vegan and vegetarian burgers, plant-based meat alternatives on pizza, pasta, at the Asian Walk Station, and, now I'm hungry.
What about the other locations?
Their delis also have plant-based meat alternatives, and the hot bar always have delicious vegetarian and vegan options available. And while I'm there, I pick up the freshest ingredients to make an easy dinner.
Foster's. Better because we care.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by Value Med Pharmacy, with 2 locations to serve you, Walkers Road in Georgetown and an Evron Plaza, Boddentown. Visit Value Med, more than just a pharmacy. ValueMed Pharmacy is your community care partner for health and wellness needs. We offer convenient prescription processing at the counter and online at value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com, with pickup available at the Walkers Road or Boddentown location. We also accept transfer prescriptions from other pharmacies. More than just a pharmacy, shop ValueMed for personal care and beauty products from trusted brands, perfume and gift sets, Hallmark and greeting cards, baby clothes, footwear, handbags, swimwear, home decor, toys, school supplies, and stationery. And home convalescence aids like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, and hospital beds. With 2 locations to serve you, Walkers Road in Georgetown and in Evron Plaza, Boddentown. Visit ValueMed, more than just a pharmacy.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
With a look at Radio Cayman's morning news, I'm Dion Anglin. With the average cost of rent in the Cayman Islands up 19.3%, the Cayman Islands government is looking for solutions. Radio Cayman's April Cummings has more.
Housing Minister the Honourable Dwayne Seymour and Economic Development Minister the Honourable Joseph Hugh are spearheading the Affordable Housing Initiative, facilitated by the Strategic Reform Implementations Unit in the Office of the Deputy Governor. The process kicked off on February 12th with a series of think tank and one-on-one sessions that engaged more than 50 stakeholders. Public sector engagement in the first phase of consultations included representation by key stakeholders, including the Needs Assessment Unit, the Department of Children and Family Services, and the Department of Planning. Representation from the private sector included those working in construction, development, consulting, utilities, finance, banking, and real estate. The second phase of consultations will reportedly involve detailed exploration of some of the key issues and potential solutions identified. If your work impacts housing or is impacted by housing and accommodation, and you'd like to be part of the process of finding affordable housing solutions, contact Matthew Hilton at matthew.hilton@gov.ky. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
Agriculture Minister the Honourable Juliana O'Connor Connolly wants to see a grant program in place for local farmers.
We need to put more investment into our farmers. We need to come up with a policy whereby we can give them farming grants, as we've had to do with sports when we wanted to build that sector of our economy.
The Honourable Juliana O'Connor Connolly there speaking at Wednesday's Agriculture Show, which brought an estimated 8,500 people to the fairgrounds in Lower Valley. And in news elsewhere, NATO has urged all warring parties in Syria's Idlib province to de-escalate the situation after an upsurge in fighting between the Turkish and Syrian armies. Jens Stoltenberg called on Russia and the Syrian government to stop their offensive against the rebels and end indiscriminate bombings.
We are strongly supporting, and NATO allies are engaged in trying to move forward the efforts, the UN-led efforts to find a peaceful solution. And we call on Syria and Russia to fully engage in such UN-led efforts to find a peaceful solution.
Mr. Stoltenberg was speaking after 33 Turkish soldiers were killed in an overnight airstrike in Idlib. Turkey, which is a member of NATO, says the strike went ahead despite coordination with the Russians. Presidents Putin and Erdogan held urgent talks by phone this morning in an attempt to calm the situation in Idlib. Here's BBC's defense and diplomatic correspondent Jonathan Marcus.
A Turkish spokesman has described the Syrian airstrike on its outpost in Syria as an attack against NATO. But for all the public's sympathy with Ankara on show today at the alliance's headquarters in Brussels, that is probably not how many of Turkey's NATO allies will see things. Turkey, after all, has been pursuing a high-risk policy in Syria, accompanying all this with a diplomatic tilt towards Moscow. But the limits of this Turkish policy may now be apparent. After the tensions over recent months, NATO is clearly eager to patch up things with Ankara, but it's not going to act militarily to protect Turkish forces in Syria.
And the three-time Olympic gold medal-winning Chinese swimmer Sun Yang has been banned for 8 years for doping test infraction by the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland. BBC's Laura Scott has the details.
He has been one of the most divisive figures in world sport, and today Chinese swimmer Sun Yang has learnt he will not be swimming at the Tokyo Olympics or at any event for the next 8 years. The 28-year-old, who won 2 golds at London 2012 and another at Rio 4 years later, was found guilty of tampering with a doping control after destroying a sample of blood during an out-of-competition test in 2018. The ruling by the Court of Arbitration for Sport comes after an appeal by the World Anti-Doping Agency, who disputed the decision by swimming's world governing body FINA to only give Sun a warning for his part in the incident.
Laura Scott. Malaysia's political crisis has deepened after the Royal Palace rejected a plan by the interim leader, Mahathir Mohamad, for Parliament to vote on a new Prime Minister on Monday. Dr. Mahathir resigned as Prime Minister earlier this week, breaking a coalition with his former protege and long-term rival, Anwar Ibrahim. The move was widely seen as an attempt by the 94-year-old politician to consolidate power.
And that'll take us out of Radio Cayman's 8 o'clock morning news. I'm Dion Anglin.
The 8 a.m. news is brought to you by Value Med Pharmacy, with 2 locations to serve you, Walkers Road in Georgetown and an Evron Plaza, Boddentown. Visit Value Med, more than just a pharmacy. Did you know that Value Med Pharmacy has a free online prescription service? Managing your health and medical requirements has never been easier with Value Med. Simply visit value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com and click the Refill Prescriptions tab on our website. Fill in the information for new prescriptions or refills and choose your preferred pickup location. Value Med on Walkers Road or Boddentown. Then bring in your original prescription from your doctor when picking up. There's no need to stand in line and wait for your prescription. Save time and pick up prescriptions at your convenience by visiting value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Spring is in the air at Edie's Decor, and no better time to freshen up your home for 2020. Discounted wood-look porcelain tiles, marked down extra large tiles, 50% off selected items, and prices as low as $1.32 per square foot. Exterior, bathroom, and kitchen. Edie's has your home makeover covered. Edie's Decor on Eastern Avenue. February tile blowout. 2 days only, Friday 8 to 5, and Saturday open until 4.
Rotary Club Central, in association with the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, HSA, present Health Check 2020. Free health check, free mini medical consultation, diabetes, hypertension, and much, much more. Saturday, March 7, 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Nurses, doctors, Rotarians in service to you. The Rotary Health Check 2020 at A.L. Thompson's, Foster's Airport and Countryside, Foster's Republics, and Camana Bay. Costs you less. And Hurley's Supermarket. You may save your life. Rotary Central Health Check 2020. Your life, your health. Rotary, connecting the world.
The Weather Report is proudly sponsored by Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Super Stitch. We are known for our amazing fabrics, top quality tailoring, and dressmaking. But did you know that we also carry trimmings, glitter, sequins, acrylic paints for fabrics and craft, floral wire, glues, markers, foam balls, and assorted ribbons? Yes, we do. You have a do-it-yourself project? Just pop into Super Stitch and see what we have in store for you. There is a craft item for your every need.
My favorite, the beads, glass ones, flat, and even those shell ones.
Super Stitch, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasadora Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Good morning, Cayman. Let's take a look at your latest weather. Compliments of our friends at Super Stitch. Present temperature 79 degrees Fahrenheit, but it feels like about 81. Relative humidity 83%. Winds are out of the north-northeast at 13 knots. Barometric pressure now 30.06 and rising. Wind gusts up to 13 knots. Fresh northeasterly winds and rough seas are expected across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours as a cold front moves south of the Cayman area and a high-pressure system builds over the southern United States. Forecast for today, partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 20% chance of morning showers. Temperatures will rise to the low 80s. Winds will be north to northeast, 15 to 20 knots with higher gusts. Seas will be rough with wave heights of 5 to 7 feet, especially along the west and north coasts. Small craft should exercise caution over the open waters. Some swells are likely along the west and north coasts. Later on tonight, partly cloudy skies, 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall to the low 70s. Winds will be north to northeast, 15 to 20 knots. Seas will be rough with wave heights of 4 to 6 feet, especially along the west and north coasts. Small craft should continue to exercise caution over the open waters. Some swells are likely along the west and north coasts. We're in a low tide. High tide is coming up at 11:42 this morning. It's going to be low at 6:29 this evening. For tomorrow, high tide will be at 12:59 a.m., low at 7:02 a.m., high at 12:16 p.m., and low at 7:27 p.m. Sunset this Friday evening is at 6:29. Sunrise for tomorrow, Saturday, 6:46. And the outlook is for similar weather conditions expected through Sunday morning. That's your latest weather, brought to you by our friends at Super Stitch.
Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center was the proud sponsor of the Weather Report, your one-stop shop for all of your household items, craft items, jewelry, beads, and decorations, and much more. Call Super Stitch at 949-2833 or email customer care at superstitch.com.ky.
New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it, drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasadora Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Red Sky at Night. Terrific live music, actors, dancers, comedians, and poets. Over 100 artists and artisans selling paintings, crafts, jewelry, and accessories, as well as delicious local food. Red Sky at Night at the Harquail Cultural Center. Saturday, February 29th, 4 p.m. to midnight. Don't miss out. Tickets on sale now at eventpro.ky. A CNCF production. Sponsored by Hurley's Media, Pepsi, Caribbean Airlines, and Radio Cayman. For the health of it, Radio Cayman's premier health show is brought to you by Healthcare Pharmacy, the Cayman Islands Civil Service Association, Holy Cross Hospital,
Cayman Fertility Center,
and EatingClean.com.
This is For the Health of It with Tara Bush.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
All right, good morning, Cayman. Let's take a look at the movement of traffic. Streets in Georgetown are getting busy with incoming traffic out of West Bay and from the eastern districts. Godfrey Nixon Way, good pace movement of traffic, similar on Eastern Avenue heading down to Shedden Road. And of course, traffic in both directions moving good. Looking far east, the east-west arterial traffic is moving quite comfortable. Similar just outside King Sports Center if you're heading along Linford Pearson Highway and along Crew Road. Expect the usual little congestions in certain areas if you're turning on to Agnes Way or Bobby Thompson Way. Of course, Crew Road just north of the airport runway or west of the airport runway, a little bit busy with incoming traffic as you make your way out to Shedden Road. Thomas Russell Way looking busy. Traffic heading in the northern direction if you're going up to the Esterly Tibbetts Highway or along North Sound Road or onto Godfrey Nixon Way. And of course, West Bay Road looking down from the Ritz-Carlton. Good movement of traffic. Expect the usual traffic building hotspots as you make your way into Georgetown. Buckle up, stay safe. And if you're driving, stay off them smartphones. Your traffic report brought to you by our friends at Subway. Grab breakfast right now at any one of their locations.
You know what goes perfect with tuna? Bacon. That's why Subway's adding bacon to our delicious tuna sandwich. It's the Tuna BLT. At just 540 calories for a 6-inch, you'll love this mouth-watering combination of flavors. Subway's tasty tuna sandwich is simply sumptuous on its own, but add bacon and it's out of this world delicious. After all, bacon and tuna are perfect together. Stop by any of Subway's 7 locations today and get the Tuna BLT. Subway. Eat fresh.
The traffic report is brought to you by Subway. Planning a meeting, event, or office celebration? Visit subway.ky to place your catering order today.
To the next presentation of CI Retro Talk Today on Friday, February the 28th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman, when we bring you the second in the 3-program series on the path to the Cayman Islands' first constitution in 1959. Cayman Islands politics and governance. This program will focus on the origins and development of political parties in the Cayman Islands and is being brought to you by the Ministry of Health, Environment, Housing and Culture. They are always working diligently to protect, promote and advance the sustainability of our health, environment, housing, culture, history and heritage, the knowledge of which is important to planning the path forward. That's CI Retro Talk Today on February the 28th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman. Be listening.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
If your business is over here, but your customers are over here, adding more yellow to your business will bring you both right here. With everyone searching yellows, print, online, and mobile app, getting your business noticed is easier than ever. Book your consultation today at findyellow.com.
Hi, I am Dr. Lee, Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health. The Ministry and the Department of Public Health, along with our partners, are working hard to help protect residents from the novel coronavirus. Did you know the best way to help prevent infection is to avoid being exposed? So please, wash your hands frequently with soap and water, or use an alcohol-based sanitizer. Cover your noses and mouths when coughing or sneezing. And as best as possible, keep a good distance or avoid contact with anyone with symptoms of a respiratory infection. To read more about the public health's updates, please visit hsa.ky.
For the record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning, and welcome back to For the Record. That last commercial there was quite timely because we are fortunate to have Dr. John Lee in the studio with us, along with the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, Minister with responsibility for health, environment, culture, and housing. Also with us, Dr. Samuel Williams, who is the Medical Officer for Health, and with us also we have Ms. Nelly Pucci, who is the Acting chief officer in the ministry as well. Before we went to our 8 o'clock news, we had 2 callers, and the last caller had some questions, and I believe that our panel here now wants to give a response to the queries made by that caller. Dr. Williams?
All right, thank you, and thanks for the caller. The last caller actually has some concern about the incubation period of the disease, and meaning from the time you get in contact, exposed to the virus, from the time you develop symptoms, and how long this could be. The incubation period normally is between 2 to 14 days. However, there's an average of 5 days. So it's not that long before somebody who actually have been exposed to the patient, to a virus, will start having some symptoms. So we have that information, we know that, and of course we'll take that into account when we are doing quarantine for patients. So that's what we're doing up to 14 days. That's what is recommended internationally by WHO, PAHO, CDC, Public Health England International Organization, that 14 days is a period that is safe for us to quarantine a person. And if the person had not developed any symptom within those 14 days, it's unlikely that this patient will develop any symptoms at all, or the patient will be infectious to others.
Okay, excellent. We want to get Ms. Nelipucci into the conversation, and the understanding is that there are new regulations due to come into effect soon. Ms. Pucci, you want to tell our listening and viewing audience about that?
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Just to speak on 2 key points that are within the current regulations that have been approved by Cabinet but not yet fully gazetted. We expect that should happen shortly. So to do those 2 key points have to do with refusal of entry for visitors, and also how residents in Caymanians are affected by the controls that are in place. So with respect to tourist visitors, we're looking at no tourist visitor being permitted to land in the islands, whether by ship or aircraft, where that person has traveled to, from, or through an infected country within a period of 14 days or less, immediately preceding the tourist visitor's arrival in the islands. Just to speak to what infected country means and how it's defined in the regulations, currently that means mainland China and any other country which the Cabinet declares from time to time by notice published in the Gazette as a country where there is known or thought to be sustained human-to-human transmission of COVID-19, or from which there is a high risk of importation of infection or contamination with COVID-19 via travel from that country to the islands. In terms of residents and Caymanians, how we are affected is that the regs currently speak to having traveled to, from, or through an infected country within a period of 14 days or less, immediately preceding that person's arrival in the islands. For those such persons, we're looking at a period of 14 days the departure of the person from an infected country, that such persons would remain at the person's home or such other place of quarantine as specified by the medical officer of health. With regards to tourist visitors, we're also looking at such persons being quarantined and under surveillance of the medical officer of health at a quarantine facility that would be specified by the medical officer of health until the expiration of 14 days from that tourist visitor's departure from an infected country.
Okay. Now, in relation to visitors, those persons who come from a country where there's a visa regime in place, and applications for visas either have to be made to the Cayman Islands or via British embassy or consulate in those countries, are any specific instructions being given or to those issuing posts in relation to screening, in relation to questions as to their travel history before we issue a visa to those countries? For instance, I believe that China no longer falls under a visa regime. I can check that out. I'm not sure, but we certainly do have persons traveling, say, from the Philippines, who may be coming here on work permits that have already been issued. And what sort of controls do we have in place for them? Is the 14-day? Because we know that the virus has surfaced in the Philippines as well. And do we have any special restrictions for them?
Well, that was a loaded one.
Sorry.
What I can say though is that, and when I mentioned earlier that we met with airlines and frontline staff, that is some of the defense that we train to be able to identify and ask certain questions, and to flip through their passports to see their travel history and either deny or quarantine. So that's one of the areas. It's going to be very hard to be able to detect everything, but we're depending on the frontline staff, airlines and the border control, to be able to deny some of these persons entry. Dr. Lee, you might want to pick up on that.
Sure.
Yeah, so the steps we put in place is not only to advise everybody at our borders themselves. Clearly, if somebody's already arrived here, we would have to deal with the people when they arrive. But more widely, as Honourable Minister has said, we've shared the information with the airlines. Customs and Border Control have also advised other countries of the restrictions, as have the Cayman Islands Airport Authority. The cruise ships have actually already implemented their own safety protocols, and they're not letting people for a minimum of 14, some even much longer, who have travelled to mainland China, and actually they're extending the number of countries. As far as the Philippines are concerned, they're currently not a country we're particularly concerned about. Right. They've been, from what I understand, have been quite good at controlling the travel histories of people, and they still only have had 3 people who've had the coronavirus in the Philippines in a population of 103 million. So they're doing remarkably well. Some of the other countries that Dr. Williams mentioned earlier are of more concern. I mean, countries which are closer to home, such as France, Germany, Italy, they're closer to home. So I think we're doing well with sharing the information as widely as we can, to try to stop people from getting here who may be in the at-risk group that Ms. Nelly has just laid out for us.
Okay. Now, as a small jurisdiction, population-wise as well as landmass, does that make us any more vulnerable in the event that we do detect cases here? Does it make it more difficult because of the size of the landmass and the limited movement of people, within that landmass?
In some ways it's easier, in some ways it's more difficult. Clearly communication is easier. It's easier to control things should we need to, like, if there's any emergency, we have the ability to control things, and because we're relatively small, it's easier to input some of those controls. And yet, clearly, we're also quite small, so things may be able to spread quite easily too. So it's a bit of both, Mr. Connor. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to pick up on before we went into the break. I think caller number 1 has some question. I don't think we have answered that to them.
That's correct.
To him. So I think I wrote 3 main questions that he had. One was about home quarantine and the concern that by quarantining somewhere at home, they could be spread to the family or to the people who live with them. We know this, we have that into account. However, we felt that it would be much better for a person to be quarantined in the comfort of their own house. If the patient starts to develop any symptoms, we definitely will have to then quarantine the rest of the house. But we will follow on this person. We monitor daily, and to make sure a large number for people. If we get an outbreak on the island with large number, it will be very difficult to find and have the facilities to keep all these persons quarantined and to follow up on them. And they won't be on the comfort of the home. We want them to recover quickly, and no better place to do that from home Also, the caller have asked about the hospital capacity. The hospital is ready. The hospital have identified an area of isolation and treatment, or treatment for patients that need to be admitted and need the type of treatment. Funds have been approved by government in order to acquire the equipment that is needed to run this facility, and the equipment has already been ordered. So we are ready at the main hospital at the HSA, and we're also in communication with the other 2 hospitals on island in order that we need their assistance also managing some of these patients. And the last question that the caller had was about the PPE, the personal protective equipment, the mask, and the glove and goggles. I can assure that the hospital right now, Yorktown Hospital, have around 300,000 masks. We normally use around 6,500 a month. So we have a large amount. We're also in contact with other suppliers to get more. And the N95 mask, which is the one that healthcare provider we use they have to do a procedure on a patient, we also have enough quantity of that. So I can assure the public that the hospital is ready. We do have a plan. And we actually are in the process of planning a tabletop exercise in the coming next 2 weeks in order to make sure, with different stakeholders as well at the hospital, to make sure that we all are ready when we get the case here in the Cayman Islands.
Excellent. We have 2 callers. So let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, OC. This is Gilbert McLean. Good morning to the minister and the 2 doctor guests. I think it's
morning.
Excellent that this opportunity is being taken to inform the people here in Cayman, residents and visitors and everybody else, as to what is taking place or what is in place to make sure that we are ready for what is almost likely to be inevitable, that the coronavirus will reach here. Just a short while ago, I was looking at the TV and I see that the first case in Nigeria, which is the first in sub-Saharan Africa, one has occurred there. So I particularly listened as you spoke about the situation with China. I think you raised it, OC, but we don't have a visa requirement with them. Well, maybe it is an excellent time like today for the government to make that a requirement, but because we would want to know that persons coming from there have that we are in control of the entry and we know what is happening, that it's clear that we're not going to allow people from there. This is the stage where we would not want to get into this, the law I bear onto these situations, that people will be stopped where they are coming from countries that are contaminated. I don't need to remind anyone that we have a couple dozen Filipinos here, and what is happening with their going to the Philippines or coming from the Philippines. I think that's an area that should be very carefully watched. And I say that as a citizen who has enough sense to be concerned about something which there is no true answers at this time. It was also very reassuring to hear the doctor speak about the fact that there are masks at the hospital, and hopefully the pharmacies or wherever that order them, A.L. Thompson's and the like, will order them here, so we will have that in Cayman. We shouldn't sit and believe that God always looks out for us. He's given us the sense to look out for ourselves, that we should take the steps that yourselves are speaking about this morning. And personally, as a citizen, I'm very encouraged to hear it and to hear some of the things that are in place. Of course, if someone comes here who's a Caymanian or a resident and is found to have coronavirus containing in the house, is perhaps the easiest and quickest thing to do. But then again, the possibility of it spreading to the rest of the family is also real. But I think, and perhaps you haven't said so, but there would need to be space if there are people who come here that are not from here or citizens and all that would be required, including doctors, to handle such persons in a particular designated place. But congratulations, as I said, to yourselves that you're taking the right approach, being upfront in your face and telling you the facts. It's just give me the facts and I'll reassure myself. So you're giving the facts today. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Former minister there, as well with that. Minister?
Yeah, thank the caller, and I just want to say to reassure the public that we have met with CETA, the Cayman Islands Tourism Association, and got some assurances there. So that was something that we saw that we needed to do in case a tourist got through the borders, wasn't detected, and as soon as they came to the Cayman Islands, then they started to show symptoms. So we met with CETA and started to devise some plans. He spoke about masks and so forth. We started ordering these because we saw it coming. We know that it would be a shutdown at some point. We even tried a system to see if someone could get, if someone could just walk into a Walgreens in the U.S. to see if they could pick up some. And from about 3 weeks ago, they had already started putting ration on masks in the U.S., saying that only healthcare providers could purchase these. Otherwise, you could only get one mask from the drugstores in the U.S. So we were well aware. We had our providers in the U.S. We have backup supplies, and we have supplies on the way. And we've just contacted another reliable source that is still supplying these to other countries. So we're well on the way in terms of securing masks. Someone mentioned earlier about hazmat suit. The hazmat suits, in my opinion, would be for first responders and for healthcare workers. Just to give persons assurance that Cabinet has approved the requested amount of sums, 1 million US from the HSA for the surge capacity to convert a certain area in the hospital with around 16 beds. Some of that funding will cover new beds, ventilators, and other equipment. So we're well on the way with that. Cabinet has already approved that. Another hospital, private hospital, because this is just not going to be a HSA effort. We've contacted all the larger hospitals on the island. Other hospitals have offered beds, thankfully there's no cases here yet. But I must also give some comfort that the CMO and the Director of Hazard Management have attended a health emergency planning workshop in Miami on the 17th to the 19th of February, where coronavirus had a high focus. I also want to let the public know and to be reassured that the Ministry of Health has been involved in various multi-sectoral meetings following up on conversations with the ports, sea and air, customs and border control, tourism, our cruise ship partners, and healthcare sector responders. We've been in communications with Florida Cruise Ship Association. Information is inserted in every passport for every arriving passenger, tourist and local. And someone from the HSA is also placed at the airport. We've met with the Cayman Islands, CETA, as I mentioned earlier. Healthcare workers, as I mentioned, are stationed at the airport during busy periods to provide travelers with advice. In terms of legislative actions, Cabinet has already approved, following up on what Chief Officer said, the 2019 coronavirus, Ebola virus disease to be added to the schedule of notifiable diseases in the Public Health Law 2002 revision. In addition, Cabinet has approved the issuance of drafting instructions for regulations to the Public Health Law on the restrictions of visitors to the Cayman Islands, as you've heard earlier. if they had traveled to mainland China within the last 14 days, and quarantine measures and surveillance for 14 days for Caymanians and residents with high recent travel to mainland China and any other infected countries the Cabinet wishes to declare with high risk of importance of the coronavirus. Funding has also been improved, $100,000 for facilities and quarantine process. And I must say the Cabinet has given me the comfort that whatever we need to combat this in terms of financial needs, they are there to support the ministry.
Excellent.
I think Dr. Lee would probably want to comment on some of the earlier callers.
Okay. Well, we have two callers, so I think we would want to grab those calls just in the event that they have any questions or that they would want answered. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Good morning, caller. You may want to turn your radio down, please.
Yes, good morning, and thank you, and appreciate the advice being given out this morning. That's quite good. Just a quick question. I crossed the Spots Dock earlier, and I saw that MSC cruise ship was out there. Is that the same ship that we turned away on Tuesday?
No, that ship that we turned away on Tuesday is in Cozumel, being tested.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify that as to me because I don't know which one it is, and I didn't think we had two MSCs in the same week.
Yeah, that vessel did bypass us, like the minister said, and ended up. So Jamaica denied entry, and so did the Cayman Islands.
Correct, and it did make the international news as well.
Yes, it did.
So just wanted to make sure that people didn't get panic after seeing that one out there. So.
Certainly. They can rest assured that that's not the vessel. Thank you very much, caller. Paul, do we have another caller on hold? Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes.
Morning.
Today I had a gentleman from the North Terminal area needed a taxi back to the airport. And it was him and a lady, and he said that he was sent down from Miami to come to inspect the celebrity. And they refused him. The closest he got to that boat was just to the entrance of the fencing at North Terminal. And I said to him, I said, so if Miami sent you here to inspect the boat, why were you not allowed to go on? So the captain told him that he would not allow anybody on his ship today. So they had to go back to the airport then and go back out. So I just wonder, Mr. Seymour, in regards to these people coming here to inspect a ship like that, where anyone in the health department here was notified been notified. In other words, saying they were backed up.
Caller, do you know the organization that this individual represented? Did he represent the cruise lines or?
Yes, Carnival. He was Celebrity Cruise Line. He was representing Carnival Celebrity Cruise Line.
Well, obviously, there's lack of communication. If Celebrity Cruise Line sent him and the captain of their vessel then refuses to let him on board,
that's what I couldn't understand either.
Yeah.
He said that they just talked to him from the fencing of the port, North Terminal, and he said that he was sent down from the Celebrity, from the Miami area to come down to inspect the ship, and then the captain sent back his saying, I guess by radio, that they was not allowing anybody on the boat. So it was very cute, funny, and didn't have a lot of merit to it, to the fact that they come here and they would refuse to go on there. And I just wonder if they was to come here like that, then wouldn't our health department be some sort of involved in the situation? Just a question I'm throwing out there.
I mean, I would believe that the protocol would be that if someone is coming in that capacity, that they should contact someone in an official capacity in the Cayman Islands rather than simply showing up.
I mean, certainly we couldn't speak on behalf of the ship's captain, and the ship's captain has absolute authority,
Control,
I suspect.
yes, yeah.
So, unfortunately, I don't know the details of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. I just want to just for the caller to be aware of that, we do have a port health officer here in the Cayman Island, and any inspection to any of these ships is coordinated between the Department of Public Health, the port health officer, and the ship. And we do have the capacity and the authority to inspect a ship if we think that there's an infectious disease on the ship. This is different
Once
from
they're in territorial waters. Yes,
this is different from this particular case. It probably may have been a lack of communication between the cruise line and the industry and the ship itself.
Sounds like that as well. I believe we still have another caller, Paul. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Turn on your radio, please. Okay. You want to take the commercial break now, Paul? We're going to take a commercial break. Hopefully that caller will be able to reconnect with us. So, folks, please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back shortly.
2020 means perfect vision. And if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR. Hold up. Just two of the many hybrid models that Vamped is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from Vamped can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vamped Motors, and we will see you through. Come to Vamped, home of the hybrid, located on Walkers Road.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, formerly known as Professional Pharmacy, would like to thank the Cayman communities for their loyal support these past 18 years. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care. Thorough background checks and follow-up consultations is only the beginning. Your safety is our concern. Our staff are respected healthcare professionals whose job requires careful and precise calculations. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, where we prepare to provide exceptional care. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we care about your health.
Rotary Club Central, in association with the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, HSA, present Health Check 2020. Free health check, free mini medical consultation, diabetes, hypertension, and much, much more. Saturday, March 7, 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Nurses, doctors, Rotarians in service to you. The Rotary Health Check 2020 at A.L. Thompson's, Foster's Airport and Countryside, Foster's Republics, and Kamana Bay. Costs you less. And Hurley's Supermarket. You may save your life. Rotary Central Health Check 2020. Your life, your health. Rotary, connecting the world.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the Record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're discussing the coronavirus situation throughout the world and the Cayman Islands' proactive response in the event the virus was to emerge in the Cayman Islands. There are some who are saying it's not a question it's just a question of when that it will take place in the Cayman Islands. So we are being advised and reassured of the government's commitment to combating this virus and to doing all that is humanly possible to prevent it from entering the Cayman Islands. I'm going to give the microphone back to Dr. Lee for a moment.
Good morning to any joining listeners. I just wanted to say that over the next, in the space of the next few days and weeks, you'll probably see an increasing amount of information coming out about coronavirus as we feel the threat is becoming ever more present to the Caribbean in general and to our islands. So there'll be a much more educational material coming. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about children, as many people will have questions about that. We endeavor to be driven by science and any of the responses that we take or decisions that we make. So far, it's difficult to understand what's happening in children. It appears that the children that get the condition have a mild condition or don't get it at all. We don't know if children are immune or if they are having the disease and just not having any symptoms. We also don't know the crucial point about whether children can transmit it. If they have it, are they transmitting it? We certainly know that adults can, but we don't know that fundamental question because the pool of people to investigate is quite small. We have to assume for the moment that it is highly likely, like so many other viruses, that children are getting it and are able to transmit it. But because this pool is relatively asymptomatic or totally asymptomatic, it's a worry. So Minister said earlier, and that if we had a case or a suspect case, we would need to take actions likely that you've seen in other countries in order to try and protect the spread. I did want to say that also we, alongside the enhanced information that we plan to put out, there is also an offer that, certainly for the schools, because kids can often teach a lot of other people.
Yes.
No, we don't just teach them, but they teach a lot of other people. So the offer is there. The Public Health Department will come and talk to the schools about the coronavirus. I know that the hazard management team are going in with the Red Cross for educational sessions with the schools, and I've offered, we'll go along with them if we're invited, but the offer is there.
Okay. Dr. Williams, anything to add?
Well, I think at this point it is important for the public to know, just following up on what Dr. Lee just said, that depending on how many cases we get here in the Cayman Island and how we handle it, we have to take different measures in order to try to prevent gathering of people, because I was mentioned earlier, we need to prevent gathering. This is where the disease is spread more quickly. And there will be measures that it will have to be taken when it get to that. We have a plan already for what we'll do with the first suspected case, with the first confirmed case, how we manage, where we're going to manage this case, and any subsequent cases. So I just want to reiterate to the public that we are prepared. We, in the past, like the minister has said, we have been able to control any outbreak of diseases here in the Cayman Islands, so we are confident that we'll be able to confront and control an outbreak of the coronavirus here on the Cayman Island if we get to the point that we actually have an outbreak. And it will be the work of everyone, not only the government official, but also the public and the private sector. I just want to reiterate the importance to practice hand hygiene, avoid crowd, and the cough etiquette. This is very important. The public is the main partner in controlling this disease.
And can we speak a little bit more to the level of personal responsibility that needs to be taken in this case? And if someone were to start to feel ill in any way, start to suffer from the flu and not knowing what it is, what should they be doing as a precautionary measure?
The general respiratory rules around somebody who has a respiratory illness are the same for coronavirus. So if you have symptoms of a respiratory illness, you have a cough, you have a fever, you have breathing difficulties, you shouldn't be at work. You should be at home. And anybody that has contact with you should stay, if you've got symptoms, as far away as possible, and consider whether they need to come in contact with that person at all in order to protect the spread. That's no different whether it's the flu or with the coronavirus. If the coronavirus is not on the island and somebody has no travel history, there's no reason to suspect they have coronavirus. That situation may change if the coronavirus comes here. But the distance, we talked about the distance, 3 foot at a minimum, 6 foot by preference, in order to increase that social distance you would normally have with people, and consider how you greet people. Consider not shaking their hands, not hugging them, and catch it, bin it, kill it if you have a cold.
Okay. Now we have to be realistic about the Cayman Islands, and we know that there are some low-paying jobs in the Cayman Islands. There are some employees who have contractual agreements with their employers where some may not even have sick leave, being paid for days off, and may feel pressured to go to work when they're not feeling well. Minister, what do we say to them, and what recourse could they have if, in the event that an employer discriminates against them in a situation, if it were to arise?
Well, thank you, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because that was one of the questions that came up in our steering committee meeting yesterday, and about employers not allowing employees to have time off, or not paying their salaries, etc. What we spoke of was, does the government need to do anything in legislation or regulations to be able to, and that's one of the things that we're looking at. That covers a lot of areas, so we'd have to look at the labor law and see how best we could shore that up.
Yes.
But at some point, the government may have to cover some costs. And I mean, this thing can get so deep. I mean, it can get it. I mean, when we talk about shutting down a school, and let's just say that the parent is not sick, and the parent has to go to school, has to go to work. Then who minds the child? Does government chime in and get care for the child? This is a wide open conversation, and we need to do as much as we can to avoid by frequently hand cleansing with soap and water. We can't say it enough. Covering your nose and mouth when coughing, avoiding close contact with people suffering from acute respiratory infections, avoiding unprotected contact with farm or wild animals. What we would say to people is that if you feel any symptoms at all, wear a mask. These masks are at any of the clinics in the Cayman Islands, right at the door. Okay. You don't have to go inside, just pick up masks, and if you feel symptoms, to protect your family, you wear a mask at home if you're feeling some symptoms, and do not travel while you're ill if possible. Treatment will be administered based upon your symptoms. There's a lot of questions, and as the steering committee said yesterday, as this thing progresses, we will need to meet and possibly brief cabinet every week if we need to make the necessary changes, regulations, for us to be able to
and to ramp up your response
yes.
as well. Okay. We have two callers. We're going to grab one call before we go to headline news, and we'll take the other caller after. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just 3 quick points I'll make.
Okay.
And they can respond after if they wish. I'll start with the last one. I just heard the doctor say, well, good morning to your guest as well, sorry.
Good morning.
I heard the doctor say that something to the effect that it's not possible to get the virus if you haven't traveled within any of the infected areas. I think it's a little bit late on that knowledge, because California has a case now where the person didn't travel anywhere and was not in contact with anyone who hadn't traveled anywhere. And I think they're now calling that the community transmission or something like that. And the other point is another caller called in about someone who had come here to go on board the ship, and they denied them. That's fine by the ship and that person that they were denied, but they were allowed to enter our country.
But they were only coming to inspect. They weren't ill or anything. They were coming to inspect the vessel.
Regardless, but they were going to the ship. And I'm wondering if our immigration were notified that was the purpose. They were coming here. And in a case like that, shouldn't someone from the health authority also be notified that is the case in the event someone on that ship was ill or whatever the purpose was? Mm-hmm. And then there was another caller, talking about the mask. It has been announced over and over, a mask is not sufficient because you can transmit it from the eyes as well. So just not the mouth and nose should be covered. Your eyes need to be covered also. And, if someone is being quarantined, the last place to quarantine them would be in the home, because then it would be in their house. And if there are other people living in the house, then certainly the virus is going to stay alive in the house. And since there is no confirmed time frame as to how long this virus stays alive, that would be a dangerous place to quarantine someone, whether they live alone or not. So you can respond to those if you wish afterwards. I'll give the other caller a chance.
Thank you very much, caller. We're going to go to a commercial break. When we return, we will take the other caller and we will have our guests respond to the last caller's comments and questions as well. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice.
For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Subsequent to the resignation of Mr. Bernie Bush as Deputy Speaker, Northside MLA Ezard Miller is calling on the members of the opposition to join him in requesting a special meeting of the Legislative Assembly to elect a Deputy Speaker and debate a motion of no confidence in the Speaker. The Northside member said that this was urgent, as while there is no written code of conduct, there is certainly an implicit code to which every member subscribes. Good morning, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. At least 33 Turkish soldiers have died in a Syrian government attack in opposition-held northwestern Syria in a major escalation of the conflict. Turkey, which backs the opposition, says it hit 200 government targets in response, neutralizing 309 soldiers. Russia, Syria's key military ally, says Turkish troops were attacked in Idlib province by Syrian forces while operating alongside jihadist fighters. The EU has warned the crisis could descend into a serious conflict. And a BP refinery worker in Australia has successfully won back his job after being sacked for parodying the company in a well-known Hitler meme. Scott Tracy used the popular meme from the 2004 film Downfall to portray scenes from company wage negotiations, posting it on a closed Facebook group. He later lost an unfair dismissal case which ruled the video was offensive, but an appeal judgment today found it was unreasonable to say the parody had likened BP managers to Nazis. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're discussing the coronavirus situation, the government's response to it, as well as advice that is being given out to residents and visitors to the Cayman Islands as well in that regard. That conversation has taken place with the Honorable Dwayne Seymour, who's the Minister responsible for Health, Environment, Culture, and Housing. Also with us is Dr. John Lee, who's the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Samuel Williams, the Medical Officer for Health, and the Acting Chief Officer in the Ministry, Miss Nellie Pucci. We do have one caller on hold. We're going to grab that caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O'Connor, and good morning to the Honorable Minister and to the Doctor.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First, it's very good that I thank the Minister to come to the radio for this issue. It is a very important issue and concerning the general public. So I thank him and the medical doctor to come here to discuss this important issue. The situation, we are a country who receive thousands of people as a tourist from everywhere in this world, and it's very difficult to deal with this issue. But my suggestion today to the Honorable Minister and to the Doctor, that to make a committee of 5 or 6 people, one represent George, the Ministry of Health, one represent very important medical institution in this country, Shetty Hospital, and then other medical doctors to be in this committee to decide for any issues concerning this issue, and those people to be in a call 24/7, always to deal with any issues concerning this. So a committee have of 5 or 6 doctors, specialized people who know in the medical field what is measures have to be done to stop this. The other issue in the good thing or good news, last night I was watching interview with one guy who get the disease and recover from it, and that most of the cases it's affect Asian nationalities. I mean, the virus could attack nation nationalities or affected in nation nationalities more than other nationalities, and this is something being approved medically. The last thing I want to say,
very quickly, caller, very quickly.
Yeah, the last thing I want to say, that this country need to take measures like stopping some nationalities to come here in a work permit, for example, unless they bring a medical report that they are not having that virus, especially Asian nationalities, like from countries, I don't want to mention those countries, but there is a member of this committee I suggest have to be from Immigration Department too, to take those medical measures. And thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much for that, panel. The last 2 calls that we had, give you an opportunity to respond to them.
Thank you. If I could just address the previous caller. Thank you very much, ma'am, for calling in. And I apologize if I wasn't clear about the transmission issue. As COVID-19 disease is already in the States, that is how the person in California would have been infected. We don't have the virus yet on the island. When the virus comes on the island, and if it comes, but we think it's probably when, it is very likely that we're going to see a similar pattern where somebody will have no apparent connections with anybody with a travel history. Because there are a lot of people that appear to have the condition with no symptoms, and that's how it can go from one person to the other, and then somebody get it and they don't know where it's come from. With regards your other questions, this disease is transmitted by droplet spread. That means that it's by little tiny droplets that come out from your nose or your mouth when you cough or sneeze, or even possibly when you speak, which is why masks are used in certain circumstances in order to protect the spread, either from the person that has a possible condition or from the person who may be talking to that person. Yes, it is found in all body fluids, so it will be in the eye fluids as well, but the eyes don't normally have any emissions. Nothing normally comes out of the eyes, which is why we're suggesting the masks. As far as the quarantine is concerned, a lot of people who've had quarantine, we've now been able to witness the experience of other people around the world when they've had to be limited in their movements, and it appears that home is the most comfortable place to keep people who have very mild symptoms and who don't require hospitalization. Anybody that requires to go to hospital will go to hospital, but if many people, as we've talked about, either are having very, very mild symptoms, like a mild cold, which passes off quite quickly. So there's no need for those people to go to the hospitals. They can safely be kept at home. Of course, somebody that has COVID, everybody else in the household will also need to remain in that quarantine. This family of viruses is relatively fragile, so it is not likely to last for days and days, which is why the advice you've seen is that if you get a letter or a delivery from China and so on, we have no worries about that being able to give you the virus. I might as well take the second caller if I may, but the minister's already set up the committee that he's mentioned, so that's already met, and there are actually also several other committees that are in existence that are all communicating extensively. Ministers mentioned a number of different things that we've done, and I can assure you the people who need to communicate with each other are doing so several times, almost by the hour, about what we need to do, what we need to think of, and how we're going to respond. This virus is spreading very rapidly. There are huge numbers of people now that have been affected in Europe, in Italy, Germany, France, also in Iran and Africa. It is affecting all the nations of the world. It started certainly in China, but it seems to have no respect for geographical boundaries and is spreading very rapidly, which is why we're trying to get everybody to take it upon themselves to try and reduce the spread. And I'm hoping that employers will be considerate and think about the civic duties they have, and think about how they use their workforce, because if they can consider reducing the density of their workforce, if some people are able to work from home, let's say they can reduce by half the number of people in the office and then switch over and use the other half a second week, or if the parents have to stay at home because a school is closed, if the employers can be considerate and allow that person to be able to work from home, that would probably help us to slow the spread of the disease so that we can better cope.
Mm-hmm. And there are local firms that have overseas offices in some of these jurisdictions that we have spoken about as well, and they certainly have responsibilities in that regard. Some are in the legal profession, some are in the accounting profession, and other professions as well. So we would also expect that they will act responsibly.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Williams?
Yeah, I just want to mention that they have mentioned the local companies. Some of them have been actually in contact with us, with the public health department, seeking for advice on what to do and what the best way to approach. Because I don't think anyone that live here in the Cayman Island want this disease to spread around the island. So they are working with us as well. And even though we have been informed by the company of what if one or two of their employers are on their way to the Cayman Island, and we have been informed beforehand by them, and we have made them contact them and isolate them if they coming from a territory where there is local transmission of the disease.
Okay, we're going to grab another caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Oti.
Good morning, ma'am.
And good morning to all of your panelists.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
I have this question about to the doctors about the mold. You know, the black mold that can be in your homes and wherever. What will be the symptoms of having black mold in your home?
Okay.
Did you understand that?
Yes, we got your question. First, to clarify that the black mold that we find could be found in some places, houses, and workplaces that are not related at all with the coronavirus. But the symptoms for people who have allergies to mold will be usually symptoms of respiratory symptoms like cough and runny nose and those type of symptoms of allergic reaction to the mold, especially cough.
Thank you much for that. And Mr. Minister?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to leave my number for you to get from the man there. Understand?
Okay.
I know you know who I am.
Yeah.
And you have my number already, but I'm going to leave it with you now because I need to talk to you very, very, very quickly.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much, caller. We're going to take our last commercial break for this segment, so we will have another 15 minutes with the minister and his team here on For the Record. So please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back shortly.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Start getting your debt under control with a debt consolidation loan from Fidelity Bank. At Fidelity, your loan decision is quick with no runaround. Plus, with competitive interest rates and fees, we will help you reduce your monthly payments and get you back to living again. Don't let the burden of overwhelming debt tie you down this year. Call Fidelity today and let's make it happen with a Fidelity Bank debt consolidation loan. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Rotary Club Central, in association with the Cayman Islands Health Services Authority, HSA, present Health Check 2020. Free health check, free mini medical consultation, diabetes, hypertension, and much, much more. Saturday, March 7, 10 a.m. through 2 p.m. Nurses, doctors, Rotarians in service to you. The Rotary Health Check 2020 at A.L. Thompson's, Foster's Airport and Countryside, Foster's Republics, and Camana Bay. Costs you less. And Hurley's Supermarket. You may save your life. Rotary Central Health Check 2020. Your life, your health. Rotary, connecting the world.
For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the Record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning. And welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Honorable Dwayne Seymour, Minister responsible for health, culture, environment, culture, and housing. Also with us, his acting Chief Officer, Miss Nellie Pucci, Dr. John Lee, Chief Medical Officer, and Dr. Samuel Williams, Medical Officer for Health. We're discussing the coronavirus situation, government's response to it, government's proactive response to it, and the points pointing out that government will spare none whatsoever when it comes to providing the resources to combat this disease in the event that it enters the Cayman Islands as well. One of our listeners has written in and said, can we ask where do we get the right masks from? And I think that was mentioned already, but you can repeat it. All of the health centers. And the person is saying not the common masks, the ones that doctors use with the breathing vents. And I guess the question would be there: does the general public need those type of masks?
Yeah, and the answer is no. The general public doesn't need the mask. It's called N95, the mask that is used by healthcare provider. Actually, and not even by all healthcare provider, when they are actually doing a procedure on a patient, like intubating a patient or a tracheostomy or things like that. But the general public only definitely need it's not an advice for them to wear mask in public places neither. Yeah. But if they want to wear a mask, I mean, those are the ones without symptoms. If they want to wear a mask for extra protection, the general surgical medical mask is sufficient.
Okay, we're going to grab another caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC, and good morning to your guests.
Morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. This question is actually for the Minister of Health, Minister Seymour. Could it be requested, whether it's be from the cabinet, governor, whatever, that every one of our representatives have meetings with their public and with medical personnel to not to frighten people. Of course not. We wouldn't want it, but let them be more aware. Why I'm saying this is because we're hearing on the radio, if you want more information, contact HSA, whatever. That's not good enough. Many people cannot do that. Many people don't have computer. Many people don't have radios, as you would know. But it would be nice to know that our representatives, that sometimes we don't see at all, would update people with medical personnel, like I said before. And also, I never heard anything, which I just tuned in about half an hour ago.
You would have missed a lot then if you only tuned in a half an hour ago.
Okay. Was it ever mentioned about hotel workers, their staff, what management is doing with them, whether they're upgrading them on a weekly basis of how to deal with
We've spoken about workers in general, and the minister did speak about the fact that he's in constant dialogue with the Hotel and Tourism Association as well. So all covered.
Okay, well that sounds good. That sounds good. But it is a serious concern, and many people. I'm in contact with older people because I hope to God that I get to some of their ages. They're always calling and says what should they do? They even call it corona virus. They call it that bad flu. Now, somebody that is not experienced in the medical field, I can only repeat what I hear on the radio and what I hear on the BBC, because I listen to that all the time. But those people and their families need to be up to date of the symptoms of it and things like that. But the first question, I would like to know if it's anything can be done about our representatives. That was my first question. I thank you all for listening, and I hope that we can buckle down and realize that this thing is serious.
That's why they're here, caller. That's why we're starting to buckle down. That's why they're here, giving out information. And I'm sure that if possible, they will discuss about in the event that it is need to go district to district, that will be done as well. Thank you very much, caller, for that. One of our listeners has written in and said, can you say if Panama is a restricted country, as my wife plans to leave for there tomorrow? She has not been off island for the last 6 months. Panama. And a person planning on traveling to Panama.
We're not aware of any case of coronavirus in Panama.
Right.
Okay. Thank the caller. And what I would say is that we've been trying to get out as much information as possible. That's why we're here in this medium. And as it is, we're gathering information every day. So all of the MLAs don't have all the information necessary to come out to have a meeting. But what I will ask the CMO to do is to put together a package for all of the representatives, all 19, and so that if they want to go and have a meeting, a district meeting with their constituents, that they can do so with confidence. Different MLAs have different ways of contacting with their constituents. Some have WhatsApp, some have email, some have Twitter, different electronic means. But I know just seeing your MLA and being able to be able to ask some questions would be comforting to most, because we're really going to have to take this nationwide, so that if we do get a case, that the fears, there's no panic.
And would you be prepared to provide, let's say, for instance, if a member of the Legislative Assembly decided to have a community meeting, would you be prepared then to provide technical advice, having Chief Medical Officer or the Medical Officer for Health, or even your acting Chief Officer at that meeting to dispense any additional information? You would be prepared to do that as well?
Yeah, well, they can email the ministry, and we can see the availability of the CMO and the Chief Medical Officer.
Dr. Lee?
Just to say that the Public Health Department are always providing this service. For example, in the dengue outbreak, there were public meetings held at the time. So yes, we do that on request. We just have to be a little bit careful about these meetings. If the coronavirus comes, then we may be saying we'll need to seek other means of sharing the information.
Don't have meetings.
So that's why it's so important to do it before it comes.
Yes.
We have two callers. We're going to make those the last two calls for the morning. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, O.C. Good morning to the Minister for Health.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Panel.
Morning.
I, like others, I'm surprised that when this thing first broke, how dangerous this virus was, that the Legislative Assembly did not have a caucus to discuss this along with medical officers and things like that. We have a tendency here to wait until there's a crisis, and then we try to manage it, and we're not very good at it.
But we're not doing that in this case. That's why this proactive approach is being taken.
Yeah, let me just say this. That's what I'm saying. But I wish that we had, when we first heard it, that they would have, we've had a legislative caucus to discuss these things with their people and all this kind of thing. But anyway, the other thing is that I'm really upset about that the other morning, during this same situation we're going through here now, they announced that the Minister for Education has allocated $750,000, that's $750,000, for buses, 16, I think it is buses, that they're going to use for moving children. I thought it was the school bus that would take them from house to the school. These are occasional things when they have to go on an excursion someplace that they can drop these buses. and it's costing us $740-something thousand.
Caller, you're really going off as a topic, at this
Let
point
me
in
finish.
time. I'd like you to get to your point because we really don't want you to insert, other politics into it. This is an important subject. This is an important issue that the whole world is dealing with it. We want to deal with it rather than being critical.
Thank you, sir. This is what I'm saying. $750,000. I said we could have been doing things like buying a bunch of masks.
The government has not said that there's any shortage of funds in relation to the purchase of masks. The minister has already said that they have sufficient quantities, they have their suppliers on hand, an additional $1 million US has been allocated to that. Caller, running out of time, we're going to take the last caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, Mr. Overseer, and good morning to your distinguished panel. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good
morning.
What I was going to suggest, I sort of partial bit already said by Dr. Lee. We want to avoid panic, first of all, to everyone in Cayman. The greatest thing we have to fear is fear itself. President Roosevelt said, panic. But he's quite right when he said, this is what I called, rather than having meetings where we're crowding together elderly people and people with compromised situations in health and bunches of people, maybe we could go by some leaflets, just leaflets handed out, simple leaflets, don't cost that much to print, with the vital information necessary that they've all spoken about there, condensing it that it would still be very safely put together.
And those caller, just to reassure you, those leaflets are in hand as well.
Distribute it to the people.
They will be. You obviously joined the show a little bit late as well.
Avoid the crowding of people. We should try till the storm passes by, so to speak. Avoid that unnecessary crowding if we can avoid it, where we gather groups to listen and to hear or MLAs. That's nice when it comes to regular meetings, but this is a different type of meeting, a different. I don't.
It certainly is
necessary to have crowds. Leaflets would do, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you very much for that. We're a little bit past the half hour, but I want to give everyone an opportunity for some final comments as well, starting with the minister.
Well, thank you. I just want to clear up something that might have been put out there in terms of the $750,000 for school buses. This was something that was necessary for each of the schools. Yes. I can tell you that we were spending more than that per year on renting or hiring buses to do after-school tutoring and field trips, etc. So that was a very necessary purchase, and one that we thank the minister and the ministry for. I want to say to persons, especially the elderly, to get their flu shots. Flu shots is still a very good thing to have. I want to thank Dr. Lee, Dr. Williams, and the acting chief officer, especially the ministry, for all the work that they're doing and the speed that they're doing it in. The acting chief officer, Nelly Pucci, for a great job that she's doing there. I want to say that we thank God for that the virus has not reached the Cayman Islands as yet. We've always actually done a great job in trying to prevent it from coming here, in terms of alerting our borders and all of our border control personnel and airlines of certain signs to look for, and checking of passports, of travel history, etc. So there's some important work that's being done, and we're somewhat insulated by having the UK, Europe, USA, and Canada also doing these checks. That's why the Caribbean really hasn't had any yet. We're still hopeful that they find some cure or vaccine to be able to deal with this coronavirus. I want to say thank you to Radio Cayman and to the opposition who gave us the opportunity to be here in this morning.
Certainly, yep.
They saw this as important. I want to thank the government, the cabinet, and the governor for all the work that they're doing, and the ease that I'm having in cabinet and getting these papers through, so that we can ensure that the persons of the Cayman Islands is protected. That is our first and foremost responsibility to ensure that the public is safe, and that if we even get a case, that it is contained and quarantined properly, whether it be at your home or a specified location by the public health department. So just practice washing your hands, covering your nose and mouth when coughing, avoiding close contact with people suffering from acute respiratory infections. If you're sick, don't travel. Thank you and God bless.
Dr. Lee?
Catch it, bin it, kill it.
Okay. Ms. Pucci?
Yeah, just to say thank you, Mr. Connor, and the public at large for allowing us to have this session today, and we're hoping that the information will be useful to persons. And just to reiterate that the Ministry of Health, the Public Health Department, will continue to do its part in supporting the Minister and the Cabinet and helping to make the best decisions for the people of the Cayman Islands, and especially with respect to this virus. And we look forward to further information sharing in this regard.
Okay, Dr. Williams?
Thanks. Just for the last caller to talk about the leaflets, I just want to let them know that leaflets have been in circulation for weeks now, a frequently asked questions, and it can also be accessed on the HSA website. But thanks for having us here. And the main message, as Dr. Lee has said, is catch it, bin it, kill it.
Okay. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly where we will have some of our youth parliamentarians here on the show as well. So please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on ensuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
2020 means perfect vision. And if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR. Just two of the many hybrid models that Vamped is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from Vamped can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vamped Motors, and we will see you through. Come to Vamped, home of the hybrid, located on Walkers Road.
This is JJ the Iceman. This is JJ the Iceman.
This is where the ride begins. A magical musical journey.
Weeknights on Radio Cayman, 8 to 10.
Music
on
Express.
Friday nights, 8 to midnight.
Music Express. Brought to you by the Anti-Money Laundering Unit. Join the fight and learn more about financial crimes. Visit the Anti-Money Laundering website at amlu.gov.ky.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
We invite you to tune in to the next presentation of CI Retro Talk Today on Friday, February the 28th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman, when we bring you the second in the three-program series on the path to the Cayman Islands' first constitution in 1959, Cayman Islands politics and governance. This program will focus on the origin and development of political parties in the Cayman Islands and is being brought to you by the Ministry of Health, Environment, Housing, and Culture. They are always working diligently to protect, promote, and advance the sustainability of our health, environment, housing, culture, history, history and heritage, the knowledge of which is important to planning the path forward. That's CI Retro Talk Today on February the 28th at 12:15 p.m. on Radio Cayman. Be listening.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure now to have in the studio with me one of our youth parliamentarians, Mr. Zachary Allen. He's a backbench member. We also hope to have with us Ms. Chanel Martinez, who will be in the role of premier in our youth parliament. But so far we have Mr. Allen with us. Mr. Allen, good morning.
Good
Welcome
morning.
to For the Record. I understand this is not your first rodeo when it comes to being on a talk show, so you look very comfortable and everything. First of all, I'd like you to introduce yourself to our listening and viewing audience. Tell us about your schooling, what school you attend, and everything.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zachary Allen. I'm 14 years old. I attend Clifton Hunter High School, and my favorite subjects are music, religious education, and science. And as you've heard before, I'm currently a member of the Youth Parliament.
Okay. And when did you become involved in Youth Parliament?
The first I remember when I became involved when it was in my English class, actually, and I was invited. And that was last year, December, I think. I'm not really sure, but somewhere around that time.
Okay. Do you have an interest in politics otherwise? Do you follow any politics in the Cayman Islands?
I don't. I'm not really that much, how would you say it?
Informed?
Well, not really informed. I'm just not really into politics.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit young for it. But you know what it's all about. In your school?
I have a rough idea.
Yeah. Do they have civic classes in your school? I know your interest is, you've mentioned what your interesting the subjects that you have an interest in. Do they have a civics class in your school?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm. And if there was one, now that you have been introduced to the youth parliament, would you be interested?
I probably would take it up.
Okay. Now, what have you learned? As far as the youth parliament is concerned, I know that you have sessions where you're coached, you're briefed on the various motions that you're going to be debating and everything. How do you go about preparing for that?
Well, when it comes to preparing, it's really important that you have the right mindset first of all, because if you're not really putting your heart and soul into it, you probably won't get anything out. And it's also important that you listen to everything they say, so that you make sure you get as much information as possible and that you're well informed on what you're gonna do.
Okay. And what do you do as far as research is concerned? Do you do internet research? You look at anything that may be available in the legislative assembly?
Yes, sir. Depending on what your motion is, you'll have different research topics, and you can either choose to. Well, it doesn't really matter how you research, just as long as it's valid.
Well, let's talk about your particular motion then. Let's hear about that.
So the motion that I'm passing is Private Members Motion Number 1 of 2020, the regulation of the use of e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands. And it reads as follows.
Okay.
Whereas there is no current law which regulates the use, production, and selling of e-cigarette products within the Cayman Islands. And whereas there is no age limit to prevent the sale and use of e-cigarette products to minors. And whereas there is no regulation regarding the labeling, promoting, sale, and distribution of e-cigarettes. And whereas currently there is no requirement for a vendor to be regulated to sell or produce e-cigarette products. And whereas there is no requirement to display signs of warning about health, safety, or health hazards at the point of sale. And whereas there is no restricted location where the use of e-cigarette products is prohibited for the safety of the public, be it now therefore resolved that this Honourable Youth Parliament considers regulating the use, sale, and production of e-cigarette products in the Cayman Islands.
Okay, sounds like a pretty clear motion. And when it comes to your debating on this issue as the mover of the motion, you're the first person who gets the opportunity to speak to that motion. I don't know if you're allowed to share what you can, because you don't want your rivals to hear what you're going to have to say about it. But no doubt you have done extensive research in terms of what obtains in the Cayman Islands in relation to e-cigarettes. And it is quite obvious from your motion that much regulation needs to be put in place in that regard. Do you believe that at the end of the day, your motion will get the government's support because of the implications, the health implications, and otherwise that non-regulation would have?
I think it would be, well, or at least like suggested by us to the government. Like it would probably be something for them to think about. But yeah, I think it would be like something debated.
And how many members are on your team? In terms of the opposition, we know that we did have Miss Martinez. She her motion is another. That's a separate motion for her. Yeah, as well. So who do you collaborate with in terms of your debate? Who else would be debating this issue as well? Just you?
No, I'm basically like introducing it, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I think the Minister of Finance will be debating as well, as well as the other backbench members, and yeah, that's as much as I remember.
Okay, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, I'll give you something to think about, so that when we come back, I want you to talk about your preparation for it, the time that you've spent with real members of the Legislative Assembly, how they have assisted you, how you're able to interact with your other colleagues, especially if they're not from the same school, and what type of camaraderie you've been able, and friendship that you've been able to establish as a result of being a young parliamentarian as well. Folks, please stay tuned. The conversation with young parliamentarian Mr. Zachary Allen will continue after this short commercial break.
Red Sky at Night. Terrific live music, actors, dancers, comedians, and poets. Over 100 artists and artisans selling paintings, crafts, jewelry, and accessories, as well as delicious local food. Red Sky at Night at the Harquail Cultural Center. Saturday, February 29th, 4 p.m. to midnight. Don't miss out. Tickets on sale now at eventpro.ky. A CNCF production. Sponsored by Hurley's Media, Pepsi, Caribbean Airlines, and Radio Cayman.
Imagine if we all practice safe driving. Imagine if we all refused single-use plastic. Imagine if we all turned off lights when not in use. We can all do our part in making Cayman Islands safer, cleaner, and greener. Together, we can achieve. Visit gov.ky/safer, cleaner, greener to learn more.
Hi, I am Dr. Lee, Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health. The Ministry and the Department of Public Health, along with our partners, are working hard to help protect residents from the novel coronavirus. Did you know that following travel advisories is especially helpful in controlling infections? So, avoid travel if you have a cough, flu-like symptoms, and a fever. It's also important to practice general infection prevention measures at all times. That means frequently wash your hands and avoid close contact with people suffering with acute respiratory symptoms. To read more about the Public Health's travel advisory and other updates, please visit hsa.ky.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system. For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, we have our youth parliamentarian, Mr. Zachary Allen. Our phone lines are open if you want to call in, if you have been a member of the Youth Parliament before, if you have benefited from it, or any advice that you may want to give to Mr. Zachary Allen in relation to the Youth Parliament and his motion. Now, Mr. Allen, I want you to tell our listening and viewing audience, as the elected member, the district that you represent, and also in regards to your motion. You're moving the motion, but I also want you to tell our listening and viewing audience the support that you've gotten from that motion in terms of the person who seconded the motion as well. So let's talk about the district that you represent first.
Okay, so I am the elected member for North Side, and I'm the elected member for North Side.
Okay. And you're the seconder of the motion?
The seconder of the motion is the elected member for Cayman Brac East, which is another backbench member by the name of Alison Flores. And she chose to second the motion.
Okay. And will she be also speaking to the motion as well? She
Yes,
will
sir.
be speaking to it as well? Okay. Now, let's talk about the practical part of preparation for this. You've gotten assistance from members of the Legislative Assembly who have been assigned to assist you with that. When do those meetings take place, and what have you been able to learn from those meetings, those sessions?
In terms of when real members of the Legislative Assembly are able to work with us, in terms of meetings, I guess it's whenever they're available because they're pretty busy people. So,
is it usually on Saturdays that you meet sometimes?
Since the 1st of January, we started meeting on Saturdays and Tuesdays.
Okay.
But at first, it was only on Tuesdays. So, getting back to what I was saying, meetings with Legislative Assembly members is basically whenever they're able to make up time. And what they do is they'd help us either with like the format of like the readings, preparing our speeches, formulating our speeches, and just like background information, things we don't understand, like clarification.
Okay. And about the Youth Parliament itself, when will your motion be debated, the date and the time? Because we do know that you do get a fairly large audience at the Legislative Assembly when these debates do take place. So I believe it's the 9th of March?
The 9th of March. In terms of the time, can't really remember off the top of my head, but it's going to be a pretty big chunk of the day.
Yes, and hopefully, well, if they're following the same procedures that they normally follow in the Legislative Assembly, the Speaker will give you a break at a certain time, and you'll be able to enjoy a sumptuous meal in the in the dining area at the Legislative Assembly as well. I'm sure that as youngsters, you would look forward to that also.
Yeah, it's like a really humbling experience seeing that you're basically in the same room that these, the representatives of our island, as you can say, basically like debate and, like do their thing. So it's really humbling to be able to participate in such an event.
Okay. Now, have you been able to develop any friendships during this period from January where you've had the meetings? Have there been individuals, obviously from other schools other than Clifton Hunter there? And
yeah,
how have you found that experience?
Youth Parliament consists of many different schools. For an example, Clifton Hunter, where I'm from, Cayman Brac, Wesleyan, and others. And since you're working with these people pretty constantly and they're like the only ones there. You form like a bond, and yeah.
Excellent. Now you, as a 14-year-old, you are a well-spoken young man. In your introduction, you have told us what your interests are in terms of subjects. What are your future plans as far as education is concerned, and then a career later on? What do you have planned?
When I leave school, I have 3 job options in mind, either to become a doctor, a pastor, or a musician in some field. And I really like these careers because they're the 3 things that I really love, and whatever you do makes you happy and you're naturally good at, I guess. So it's just something that I really want to pursue.
Okay. And do you feel that the environment in Cayman, as far as the availability of scholarships, if your family is unable to fully fund you for to go to college, do you feel that the government has provided an opportunity for you to continue to pursue your dreams in terms of a career?
I can definitely say for myself that the government has provided a lot of like opportunities and scholarships for me to go away to other places. For example, I went to Luzerne this past summer. It's a music camp that helps you to nurture your talent and be able to communicate with other musicians. So I can safely say that the government, if my family won't be able to provide, they'll be able to take on the challenge themselves.
And when you do reach that stage where you qualify professionally, what are your plans? Do you plan on returning to the Cayman Islands and contributing and giving back something to the community that gave to you?
It's definitely a plan that I will consider because, you know, since the Cayman Islands is a place where I grew up and it's allowed me to become the person that I am today, it definitely is important to give back to the community that helped me reach this far. So it's only fair that I come back and give back to the community because they've done so much for me.
Okay, that sounds very good. And what would your advice be to your peers in terms of being involved in the youth parliament and being involved in extracurricular activities in school?
Something I would say is that even once you're hearing what you're going to do or what you're suggested to do, it might be a bit scary at first, but you never really know what you're going to be in until you actually try. So it's always good to try new things, and it'll give you a better experience of life. So what I would say is, if the opportunity presents itself and you think it's going to impact you in a good way, you should definitely go for it.
Okay. Excellent. Now, I'm going to get you one more time to read the motion that you're going to be debating. And if you could say what prompted the choice of that particular motion, the subject there, or what prompted that?
Okay, so once again, the motion that we're going to be debating on is the regulation of the use of e-cigarettes in the Cayman Islands. And it says, whereas there is no current law which regulates the use, production, and selling of e-cigarette products within the Cayman Islands. And whereas there is no age limit to prevent the sale and use of e-cigarette products to minors. And whereas there is no regulation regarding the labeling, promoting, sale, and distribution of e-cigarettes. And whereas currently there is no requirement for a vendor to be regulated to sell or produce e-cigarette products. And whereas there is no requirement to display signs of warning about health, safety, or health hazards at the point of sale. And whereas there is no restricted location where the use of e-cigarette products is prohibited for the safety of the public. Be it now therefore resolved that this Honorable Youth Parliament considers regulating the use, sale, and production of e-cigarette products in the Cayman Islands. So basically what brought about this motion was a team effort, because in early on when the date of the final debate was pushed farther back, we were still deciding on some things to debate on, and it came out of a lot of arguing and trial and error, because many different topics had to be considered.
Yes.
And some weren't too favorable to debate on, so we just decided that this is something that we want to go for, and it's something that'll impact our island. Sorry.
Okay. And while this is a mock scenario, do you believe that that it is from a realistic standpoint, that this is something that not just the mock government, the mock legislature should be addressing, but the real world and the real Cayman Islands government should be addressing?
I definitely think it is something to be addressed, because e-cigarettes are a relatively new trend, especially among teens in this modern time, and it was originally made to take people off of cigarettes, but since it's still relatively new, not much is known about it, and people still develop illnesses off of it. So it definitely is something to think about and to be taken into consideration, because it puts a lot of our Caymanians and basically citizens in these islands in danger. Okay,
well, Mr. Zachary Allen, I want to thank you very much for being here, and again, I really want to congratulate you on your ability to communicate, vocally. You appear to be a very smart young man, and I believe that you have a long way to go. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
As well. Folks, for those of you who are celebrating birthday today, we want to wish you a happy birthday. Want to wish a belated happy birthday to Mr. Esmond Watson. And for those of you who don't know Esmond Watson or do not recognize the name, if you live in the Rockhole area, that's the guy that we call Pikey. So I want to wish Pikey a belated happy birthday. Also, Miss Pam Myrie, belated happy birthday. Laura Taylor, a belated happy birthday as well. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or elsewhere. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates.
Community radio with a different appeal. The voice of the people. Security through adversity. Stuck on you. Radio for all time.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only two species that we have.